Tonight, the breaking news, the death of Pope Francis, and late today, the Vatican now releasing the cause of death, dying just hours after appearing on the balcony on Easter Sunday in St. Peter's Square. And tonight, they have now revealed the Pope's will, his final wishes, what Pope Francis wanted. This evening, Pope Francis, his humility, his humor, his tolerance, the leader of more than 1.3 billion Catholics around the globe. Tonight, the Vatican now revealing how he died just hours after celebrating Easter before tens of thousands who had gathered in St. Peter's Square. This evening, what we know about the funeral and about the conclave that comes afterward, how they will choose the next pope. Pope Francis was an unorthodox choice, the first Jesuit, the first pope from Latin America. And tonight, what we know about the balance of cardinals, about the conclave already. And Pope Francis was the first pope to ever agree to a town hall with American television. Tonight, the moment we waited at that door inside Vatican walls, and then our walk across the courtyard, the behind-the-scenes moments from our historic ABC News town hall with the Pope. And tonight, you will hear from the girl who the Pope asked to sing in front of millions during our town hall. What's happened to her life since? The other news this Monday night, the flames shooting from a Delta engine, nearly 300 passengers racing to get off the plane on slides. Tonight, the Dow losing nearly 1,000 points amid President Trump's tariffs. The president now taking aim at the Federal Reserve chairman, what the president is demanding now. Tonight, ABC News confirming a brazen robbery involving Homeland Security Secretary Kristi Noem, a masked thief stealing her bag with her passport and the Department of Homeland Security access card inside. And as the world mourns Pope Francis, soon all eyes will be on the conclave and what we know, how long it could take to choose the next pope.
From ABC News World Headquarters in New York, this is World News Tonight with David Muir.
Good evening, and it's great to have you with us here on a Monday night. And we do begin tonight with the death of Pope Francis, the leader of 1.3 billion Catholics around the world, and a spiritual figure whose humility and tolerance was felt well beyond the church. Tonight, the Vatican revealing the Pope died of a stroke and heart failure, slipping into a coma just hours after his last appearance from the balcony in St. Peter's Square to celebrate Easter Sunday. During his 12 years as pontiff, Pope Francis proved himself to be the people's pope, reaching out to the poor, the forgotten, the people at the margins. From the moment the former cardinal from Argentina was introduced as Pope Francis, he set the church on a new course. The first pope from Latin America, the first Jesuit, the first to elevate women to positions of church authority, the first to allow priests to bless same-sex couples, asking early on as a pope, "Who am I to judge?" And another first, Pope Francis agreeing to the first ever town hall with American television. Tonight, that moment, we waited at the door inside Vatican walls and then our walk right there across the courtyard with Pope Francis. Millions would watch as the Pope took questions from Americans back here in the U.S. But it has been a remarkable 24 hours. The Pope, who had been in failing health, his battle with pneumonia in the hospital and then out, and then appearing on Easter Sunday. There was so much hope he was getting better. But then the world learning he died just hours later. Tonight here, the Pope's will now revealed, his final wishes. ABC's chief international correspondent James Longman at the Vatican tonight, leading us off.
Francis kept people at the heart of his papacy, and tonight thousands flocked to the Vatican to remember him and his message of humility. His sudden death a shock, just hours after greeting the faithful for Easter. Tonight, the Vatican says the 88-year-old suffered a cerebral stroke, fell into a coma and had irreversible heart failure. He died at 7:35 this morning, local time.
Con profondo dolore.
The Vatican with this announcement, saying Francis dedicated his entire life to his church, teaching universal love, especially toward the poorest and most marginalized. The first Latin American pope dying at the holiest time of the year for Catholics.
Fairly subdued atmosphere here on the square. I mean, yesterday there were thousands of people here, all cheering on Pope Francis. Look, people knew he was sick, but I think they hoped that he was getting better, and now he's gone. I think it's just shock.
This was the extraordinary scene on Easter Sunday in St. Peter's Square. Francis greeting thousands from the Pope-mobile, appearing frail but waving, blessing children in the crowd. That appearance came shortly after the traditional Easter Sunday Mass, where crowds heard what would be the Pope's final message and received his last blessing.
Cari fratelli e sorelle, buona Pasqua.
His voice just a whisper, wishing the crowd a happy Easter, his last message to the world, the same one he spent his life preaching: unity, service and compassion for society's most vulnerable. Pope Francis spent weeks in the hospital battling pneumonia in both lungs, suffering 2 emergencies that nearly killed him. But seeming to recover, he even made some appearances.
Hello. So good to see you.
Seen here with Vice President Vance on Easter Sunday, one of his last meetings with a world leader.
I know you've not been feeling great, but it's good to see you in better health.
Today, the Vice President reflected on that meeting, writing, "I was happy to see him yesterday, though he was obviously very ill. May God rest his soul." President Trump at the White House today.
He's a very good man who loved the world, and he especially loved people that were having a hard time, and that's good with me.
Former President Obama and First Lady Michelle, who met with the Pope at the White House in 2015, issued a joint statement saying Pope Francis was the rare leader who made us want to be better people. Tonight, cardinals are travelling to the Vatican from around the world, sealing off the official papal apartment, part of a centuries-old tradition, preparing for the Pope's funeral. And tonight, we've learned Pope Francis' final wishes, the Vatican releasing his will late today, saying he wanted to be buried at St. Mary Major Basilica. Francis saying the tomb must be in the earth, simple, without particular decoration, and with the only inscription, Franciscus. And in St. Peter's Square today, we met Scott and Betty from Nebraska.
There's a lot of admiration for him.
Respect.
You know, I think he was one of the more progressive popes that we've had, and open to everybody and new thoughts and new ideas, and not afraid to speak to power. And so, yeah.
Very positive influence.
Yeah.
An influence felt well beyond the church. Francis dies truly a global symbol of humility and kindness. In a world of deep division, he asked instead, "Who am I to judge?"
Well put, James. Let's get right to James Longman. He's live outside the Vatican tonight. And of course, James, the Pope's death just hours after he appeared on Easter Sunday there in Rome at the Vatican in front of the world. It seems the Pope was determined really to be the people's Pope right until the end, despite guidance from the doctors.
Yeah, that's absolutely right, David. He really wanted to be there for his people. He spent his last day putting the faithful first, and that really does sum up Pope Francis's papacy. Often he wanted to work against his doctor's orders. Now, of course, the church is bracing to see who comes next. David?
James Longman live in Vatican City tonight. James, our thanks to you. And of course, we will never forget our time with the Pope. That historic ABC News town hall with Pope Francis, the first ever. His humility, his humor, his tolerance. And there was a moment, if you remember, that he asked a saddened little girl during our town hall to sing in front of millions watching. And what's happened to her since?
Pope Francis was known as the People's Pope, a window into his humility, evident from the moment the world met him on that balcony, wearing white, a simple cassock, by choice.
Buonasera.
Pope Francis greeting the world with a simple Buonasera, good evening. Then a humble bow to the faithful gathered in St. Peter's Square. And with a limousine waiting, he instead chose to ride in a van with some of the very cardinals who had just named him Pope. He returned to the hotel to pay the bill himself. He would sometimes ride in a Ford Focus, telling priests and nuns to drive humble cars. Pope Francis in that open-air Popemobile, famously asking for it not to be covered, to be able to reach out to the faithful. He was the first Jesuit Pope and the first Pope from Latin America. He was born Jorge Mario Bergoglio, the son of Italian immigrants. He grew up in Buenos Aires, Argentina. Despite that early setback as a teenager, the infection that claimed part of his lung, this was a young man full of life and a passion for philosophy, dancing. He was a soccer fan in Argentina. He would study to become a chemist before answering the call to serve, becoming a priest at 32. He would lead by example. As a cardinal, he sold off the church mansion, cooked his own meals, and rode the subway while helping the poor. So it only seemed fitting that the new pope would take his name from St. Francis of Assisi, who dedicated his life to caring for the poor, the first pope to take that name. Pope Francis would try to modernize the church, focused on people on the periphery, and through tolerance, hoping to welcome more into the Catholic Church.
Before creating the world,
Dios amaba.
God loved.
Porque Dios es amor.
Because God is love.
Instead of washing the feet of fellow priests on Holy Thursday, an ancient ritual, Pope Francis chose prisoners, including young people, women, and Muslims. When Catholics from around the world wrote him letters about their troubles, he was known to call some of them on the phone and offer prayer and guidance. His deep personal connection to the faithful, the sick, on full display through the years, and he was accessible, often willing to stop for a selfie. His reach was extraordinary, traveling to more than 60 countries. In Rio, millions flocking to Mass on Copacabana Beach, 3 million worshipers would come see him. He would work toward a more inclusive church. Francis called for a larger role for women with a series of firsts, giving a woman a vote in the Senate of Bishops, appointing a woman to oversee the Vatican City state. He would root out corruption at the Vatican Bank, and he would express compassion for the LGBTQ community. From the very beginning, when asked about gay priests during his first in-flight press conference, he answered, "Who am I to judge?" And he would permit priests to bless same-sex couples, a seismic change in Vatican policy. "We are all children of God," he said. At the Vatican, he met privately with victims of sex abuse by the clergy. And he would speak openly through the years about climate change. In 2015, his visit to the United States, the first pope to address a joint meeting of Congress.
I am most grateful for your invitation to address this joint session of Congress in the land of the free at the home of the brave.
And it was on the eve of that U.S. visit, Pope Francis was the first pope to ever agree to a town hall with American television. We will never forget quietly waiting outside this door, inside the closed walls of the Vatican. We were not far from the Pope's residence, famously choosing to forego the grand papal apartment. We're told in a moment the doors would open, that the Pope would emerge. Instead, the door opened and they waved me inside. The Pope asking for a moment to meet with me before the cameras began to roll. And then our walk to our historic ABC News town hall with Pope Francis. I had agreed to conduct the town hall in Spanish. And as we head into the room, a smile from Pope Francis. He was surprised at the scope of the crew, and he knew our cameras were also in 3 cities from Chicago to Los Angeles to McAllen, Texas. And we began the town hall.
Su Santidad es un gran honor.
Families and young people gathered at locations across the country. Pope Francis taking their questions, and they shared their pain, their struggles. There was Valerie Herrera, 17 at the time, from Chicago, who struggled with a rare skin disorder her entire life. She told the Pope she turned to music to survive the bullying. And after her tears in front of the Pope, an unexpected request from Pope Francis. And he delivered his request in English.
Valerie, I would like to hear you singing. May I ask of you to sing a song for me?
Sure.
What? Go on.
Okay.
Be courageous.
This song is in Spanish, so. Quiero que me eduques, que me enseñes a rezar. Hazme transparente, lléname de paz.
Thank you very much. It's very kind of you.
After that moment, I turned to Pope Francis, saying a song for the Pope in front of the world. That's difficult.
Una canción para el Papa es difícil.
And tonight, right here, Valerie, who is now 26 and a nurse outside Chicago, telling us what that moment with the Pope did for her.
When he's asked me to sing for him, his very warming and welcoming smile. Whenever I think about Pope Francis, it's the face that I have in my head. That is the face that I will always remember.
And I remember in that final moment with the Pope, asking him if he had a message for Americans back home watching.
Do you have a message for America before your visit, a parting message?
Que rezo por ustedes.
The Pope saying, I'm praying for all of you, the people of the United States, and I ask you to pray for me. An extraordinary moment for all of us here at ABC News to experience that with Pope Francis, and how powerful to hear from Valerie all these years later. Now, tomorrow night in prime time, an ABC News special, Francis, the People's Pope, 10 p.m. Eastern tomorrow night, and then streaming on Hulu and Disney+. And later this week, I'll be traveling to Rome for the funeral once we know when the funeral will be held, and then we'll be there, of course, for the conclave as well. So we hope you'll stay with ABC News. In the meantime, we are going to turn to the other news this Monday night. Frightening images on board a Delta flight just before takeoff from the Orlando airport. Flames seen shooting from the engine, passengers racing to get out on slides. Here's Gio Benitez.
Tonight, terrifying moments on board this Delta flight.
Please sit down, stay seated, stay calm.
You can hear the panic among the nearly 300 passengers, flames visible outside the windows, shooting from an engine tailpipe at Orlando International Airport just after the Atlanta-bound plane pushed back from the gate. Passenger Ram Yogendra said people were yelling fire.
Kids are having panic attacks. Moms and dads are worried about the kids, grabbing onto the kids.
Come this way.
As firefighters hosed down the wing, passengers were evacuated down slides and stairs.
Coming out, they're sliding down.
Inside the terminal, a crowd watching it all. And David, tonight investigators are still trying to figure out how that fire started. The good news, though, nobody was injured. David.
Gio Benitez with us tonight. Gio, thank you. We turn now to the economy. The Dow dropping nearly 1,000 points today amid President Trump's tariffs. And now the president is taking aim tonight at Fed Chairman Jerome Powell, placing blame on him. Here's Mary Bruce.
Tonight, the Dow plunging nearly 1,000 points as President Trump ramps up his pressure campaign against the chairman of the Federal Reserve, attacking Jerome Powell as a major loser, saying the economy will slow down unless Powell lowers interest rates now. Investors worry Trump will try to force out the Fed chief he appointed himself, but who is supposed to be independent. They're already reeling from the uncertainty caused by Trump's trade wars.
There's a little transition, and that's going to happen, but ultimately we're going to be the strongest that we've ever been as a nation.
The president insists his tariffs will force countries to negotiate better trade deals, but nothing yet. And many economists feel the reason the Fed chair is hesitant to lower rates is because tariffs are already causing prices to rise, and lowering interest rates could send inflation higher. David.
Mary Bruce live at the White House. Mary, thank you. The other major headline tonight, Defense Secretary Pete Hegseth is dismissing new reports that he shared highly sensitive U.S. military attack plans with his wife and others in a second group chat using the Signal app. Sources telling ABC News the information Hegseth sent to the group is essentially the same sensitive material he shared in a separate Signal chat with top administration officials. That first group chat mistakenly included a journalist from The Atlantic. President Trump tonight is standing by Hegseth. When we come back here, the news coming in, ABC News now confirming a brazen robbery involving Homeland Security Secretary Kristi Noem. Her passport and her Department of Homeland Security access card stolen, and what we've learned here. And the images tonight of massive truck fire closing a major interstate. You see the flames and smoke there. More on this in a moment. Tonight in Indiana, parts of Interstate 65 remain shut down by a massive truck fire in Jasper County. The semi-truck exploding on the highway. Police say the truck was hauling flammable material. The truck driver was not hurt. Traffic was halted for a time. When we come back here tonight, ABC News learning a masked thief stealing Homeland Security Chief Kristi Noem's bag with her passport and her Homeland Security access card. What we know so far in a moment. Tonight, the Secret Service is now investigating a robbery involving Homeland Security Secretary Kristi Noem. A DHS official says a masked man stole her bag from a restaurant in Washington, D.C., running away. It had $3,000 inside, her passport, and her Homeland Security access pass. When we come back here tonight, James Longman is standing by at the Vatican. There are already so many questions, of course, about choosing the next pope. So what we know already about the secret conclave in just a moment here. As the world remembers Pope Francis, already questions about who the next pope could be. Let's go back to James Longman.
David, you're right. There is sadness, there is reflection, but there's also a lot of mystery surrounding these next couple of weeks at the Vatican. Tomorrow, cardinals from all over the world will meet to decide a date for Francis's funeral and, of course, the all-important secretive conclave to elect a new pope. You'll remember it took 5 ballots for the world to learn Francis had been elected. There is a lot of anticipating, waiting for that signal, the famous white smoke. And he was a surprise, the first Jesuit, the first Latin American. And from the start, he was to be a pope for the poor and those on the margins. So who will be the next pope? Well, Francis appointed some 80% of the cardinals who will vote this time, and it'll be the most diverse group on record. But that doesn't necessarily mean the next pope will be in Francis's image. Remember, he was an unorthodox choice at the time. His humble, tolerant, modest way was something new. And the church still has deep divisions, with the conservative wing very outspoken against Francis during his papacy. They will still have a strong voice in that conclave. It'll all happen in the Sistine Chapel, where the cardinals will be sequestered. That's no contact with the outside world. They'll vote 4 times a day. If they can't get to a 2/3 majority, you'll see black smoke emerge from that chimney. The smoke will turn white once a new pope is elected. The longest it's taken in modern times is 5 days. We'll be here, and I know, David, you will be too.
That's for sure, James Longman. Our thanks to you. I'll be joining James from the Vatican for the funeral and, of course, the conclave, and right back here tomorrow. I'll see you then. Good night.
Thank you for making World News Tonight with David Muir America's most watched newscast.